Every family has its routines, its moments of laughter, and its secrets. From the outside, some households appear perfect, untouched by the struggles that weigh down others. Neighbors see smiling faces, hear the chatter of children, and assume happiness lives within those walls. But sometimes what looks like happiness is a carefully painted mask, hiding cracks no one is willing to admit exist. And then, on a single night, those cracks explode into something darker. This is the story of a chilling murder that tore apart a family who seemed to have it all, and how the truth revealed a nightmare hidden in plain sight. The family at the center of this tragedy was the Harpers. Michael Harper, 44, was a successful accountant. His wife, Susan, 41, worked part-time as a teacher at a local elementary school. Together, they had 2 children, Emily, age 13, and Ryan, age 10. They lived in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, in a house with a white fence and a manicured lawn that looked like it had been plucked straight from a postcard. To neighbors, the Harpers represented the ideal family: hardworking parents, well-behaved children, and a home filled with laughter. But appearances can be deceiving. Inside the Harper home, tensions were brewing. Michael had been dealing with financial problems he had not shared with his family. Investments had failed, debts were piling up, and he had begun drinking heavily. Susan, meanwhile, had grown tired of his absences and his temper. Arguments became frequent, sometimes loud enough for neighbors to hear through the walls. Yet when morning came, they would smile and wave like nothing had ever happened. It was a performance that fooled everyone around them. On the evening of November 12th, that performance shattered. Emily and Ryan were at a sleepover with friends, leaving Michael and Susan alone in the house. At first, the night seemed quiet. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's security camera showed Michael unloading groceries from the car around 7 p.m. Susan could be seen stepping outside briefly, as though to check the mail. Nothing appeared unusual, but within hours, the Harper household would turn into the scene of a horrifying crime. Just after 10 p.m., a call was made to 911 from Susan's phone. The operator could hear muffled shouting in the background, followed by a woman's scream. The line then went silent. Police were immediately dispatched to the Harper residence. When officers arrived, they found the front door ajar and the lights on inside. What they discovered in the living room was a scene that would haunt them for years to come. Susan lay on the floor, covered in blood from multiple stab wounds. A kitchen knife, stained with her blood, was found just feet away. The furniture was overturned, and there were clear signs of a violent struggle. Michael was nowhere to be found. It was clear that whatever had happened had unfolded violently and suddenly, leaving Susan no chance of escape. The brutality of the attack stunned even seasoned detectives. This was not a quick crime of passion. The number of wounds suggested rage, anger that had built up over time and finally exploded in one chilling outburst. The fact that the children were not home that night was the only small mercy in an otherwise devastating crime. The first suspicion naturally fell on Michael. His sudden disappearance painted him as either a suspect or a victim. Had he killed his wife and fled, or had someone else broken in and taken him by force? Detectives began searching the house for clues. They found no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, and nothing stolen. This suggested the attacker was someone Susan knew and trusted. As investigators pieced together the timeline, they learned that neighbors had heard shouting earlier that evening. One woman reported hearing a male voice yelling, followed by a loud crash. Another remembered hearing Susan scream. These details, combined with the lack of forced entry, made it clear. Michael Harper was now the prime suspect. The search for him stretched through the night. Police checked local motels, bus stations, and airports. His car was missing, along with his wallet and phone. Detectives feared he might try to flee the state. But 2 days later, a breakthrough came. Michael's car was found abandoned near a wooded area 30 miles away. Inside the car, investigators found empty liquor bottles and a crumpled letter that appeared to be a confession. In the note, Michael admitted to killing Susan in a fit of rage after an argument about money. He wrote that he had not planned to kill her, but when the fight escalated, he lost control. The letter ended with a chilling line: "I could not stop myself." The discovery of the car triggered a massive search of the woods nearby. Officers, dogs, and helicopters combed the area for days. Eventually, Michael was found hiding in a small cabin that belonged to an old acquaintance. He was arrested without incident, but investigators described him as looking broken, almost hollow, as if the reality of what he had done had finally crushed him. During interrogation, Michael confessed in detail. He said he and Susan had been arguing about finances. She had threatened to leave him, taking the children with her. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, he grabbed a knife from the kitchen and attacked her. He claimed he did not remember how many times he stabbed her, only that, when it was over, she was lying on the floor, and he realized his life had shattered forever. Detectives pressed him about whether the crime was truly unplanned. The sheer brutality suggested otherwise, but Michael insisted he had no intention of killing Susan until the fight spiraled out of control. Regardless of his intentions, the evidence was undeniable. He had murdered his wife in cold blood, breaking apart the family they had once built together. The trial that followed drew massive attention. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers struggled to understand how the family they thought was so happy could unravel into tragedy. In court, the prosecution painted Michael as a man consumed by anger and desperation. They argued that his financial struggles and failing marriage pushed him to commit the ultimate act of violence. The defense attempted to frame the murder as a crime of passion, fueled by alcohol and stress, not premeditation. But the jury saw the truth in the evidence. After only a few hours of deliberation, Michael Harper was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought some closure to Susan's grieving family, but no sentence could undo the devastation left behind. For Emily and Ryan, the tragedy was even more unbearable. They had lost both parents in a single night, one to murder and the other to prison. They were placed in the care of Susan's sister, but the trauma would remain with them forever. Their happy childhood had been shattered, and every memory of their family home was now tied to the horror of that night. The Harper case is a chilling reminder of how appearances can deceive. On the surface, they were a picture-perfect family, but beneath the smiles and small talk lay resentment, anger, and despair. When those emotions boiled over, the result was not just the end of a marriage, but the destruction of an entire family. What makes this story especially haunting is how ordinary it seemed until it was too late. Neighbors never suspected the tension inside the Harper home. Friends described Susan as cheerful, Michael as reliable. No one imagined that the cracks in their relationship would erupt into such violence. And that is what makes this case so chilling. It shows how even families that seem happy on the outside can be hiding battles that are deadly. The murder of Susan Harper is not only the story of a crime, but a lesson in how unchecked anger and hidden struggles can spiral into tragedy. It reminds us that no life is perfect, no family is immune, and that sometimes the greatest dangers are not strangers in the dark, but the people closest to us. As the years passed, the murder that broke this once happy family became more than just a case in the archives. It became a cautionary tale that parents would share with their children, urging them to value life, to treasure their loved ones, and to remain cautious of the darkness that can lurk even in the most ordinary settings. What is perhaps the most haunting aspect of this tragedy is how suddenly joy turned to despair, and how quickly a family that once radiated laughter became defined by silence and sorrow. It is a reminder that crime is never an isolated act, because its ripples stretch far beyond the moment of violence, reshaping futures and leaving wounds that no sentence or verdict can ever truly heal.